Hello, thanks for joining me today. I am excited to show you a brief tour of the Expert TA system, primarily focusing on the instructor aspects of a few features in particular to get you going if this is your first time using Expert TA for one of your introductory physics courses at your school this upcoming summer, fall, or spring semester. I am on our Expert TA homepage, and I will start by clicking the login button. Once you've got an account created, you've had to likely request one from us already. So assuming that's been done, you can always request one from main@theexpertta.com from our primary website that we were just on, but I'm going to log in with my own instructor account since I have one already activated and give you a quick tour of the Expert TA system. Now that I've logged in, it will redirect me to my dashboard. We're seeing that on the page right now. And if I click on one of my older classes, you'll see what essentially a full semester's worth of activity might look like in terms of saved assignments and resources and grade sheets. We won't get caught up on too many things. We're going to keep this video really short. We're going to start by creating a class together, and then we're going to create an example assignment. Those are obviously essential in getting going. So you've got an official class and you know how to create assignments. Then we'll look at some grade preference options and features and settings and share some best practices for a few of those. And then we'll talk about the student registration and cost for a course in Expert TA, and finally directing you to some important instructor and student support resources that would be good to know about. So again, let's start with first things first. Up here at the top in the class menu area, when you first log in, even if you don't have any classes, you'll have the ability to create a new class from here. So we're going to do that. As an instructor, I can click to create a class. There's a bunch of additional class menu items that will be specifically available for a new class once you create it, and the automation for all these features is seamless. So let's try that out right now. I'll click create class, and we'll call this Summer 2022 example class, Intro Physics with Professor White at Example University. So you've got a class name and a description. You'll definitely want to choose the correct time zone. So Central Time Zone is the one that's defaulted. If you're Eastern Time, there's the UTC -5 Eastern Time, and that includes the daylight savings time. And then there's Pacific down here at the bottom. You've got Pacific Time. You also have Mountain Time and Arizona Time. Those are the most popular. Obviously, Hawaii, Alaska, and others are in there. But we're going to just keep it central. That's where I'm located physically. So my students will always know when looking at the times in Expert TA that they're always based on central time zone from how I'm viewing them. So if I'm traveling, I can do the math to make sure that I get my assignments turned in on time. And I will change the semester from the default spring to summer 2022, and I'll choose physics as my subject. We do have others here in the list. And click save, and you can see the language. Your class has been created, Intro Physics for $32.50. That's the default pricing for single semester access to use Expert TA. We also have a lifetime cap at 65. So if you teach a Physics 1 and Physics 2, the Physics 1 would be $32.50, Physics 2 would be $32.50 again. If for any reason they've got to retake either one of those courses to get through Intro Physics, they'll only be charged at $32.50 the first time they use Expert TA, $32.50 the second time, and then the third and beyond would be essentially $0 classes for that student because they've hit a lifetime cap in our system, which is a good thing. And you'll see a blank course populate up here at the top, Summer 2022 example class. We will click to next, create an assignment. Now that we've successfully done that, we've got a lot of features here that are specific to this one new class that's in view. And you can see the language for all the other things we put inside the create class box or window earlier. And so let's click up here at the class menu. You can click to create a new assignment from there. Once you have a saved assignment in your list, you can create one from an existing assignment as well. I'm going to call this Intro to Expert TA, and I'm going to leave it with the default weight of 1. Essentially, could be 1 point, or if it's treated as just a 1, 100%, 0 to 100%. The grade sheet will give you option for both points and percentage views. And you can create a custom template, grade template here. We'll get into that momentarily. I'm going to leave it with instructor default grade template. Description isn't required. Here's a big preview area for the problems that we're going to select, and here are all the date options off to the right. Let's click the chapters list and see that this is our default Expert TA table of contents library for all the content that we provide to go with intro physics, conceptual problems, single algorithmic step problems, multi-step problem solving questions with free body diagrams, and expression and equation entry, along with, again, numeric problem solving as well, all loaded into multi-step questions. So if we open up an example chapter, let's go to chapter 3, 1D motion, and we can click to select objects in free fall. So generally what you'll see in a chapter are some of the conceptual questions first, denoted with the conceptual filter to go along with it. Difficulty level based on the concept will be shown. If it's more problem solving type question like algebra, or even one that's purely calculus based, which wouldn't be relevant for an algebra based course. So you can visually see that with the filter next to the problem number. Once you are looking at an algebra based question, the difficulty would be relevant to the type of problem. So a conceptual question could be answered in a few seconds, whereas an algebra based multi-step question, parts A, B, and C, would be at the middle of the road kind of a question. So 5 to 7 minutes typically on average is what it would take to solve a question right there in the middle. Level 5, which is the highest, would be on the far side of that, 15, 20 minutes plus. Level 1 problem, algebra or calculus flagged, would be less than 2-3 minutes likely to complete the question. So that's usually a good indication for what these filters and how those filters work. So you see the conceptual questions first, and then we'll see some of those questions that are traditional Expert TA where there's multiple steps. And if I do a Control F, look for the word expression, you can see a lot of questions have students write expressions out, and that's a good thing to give them good habits with writing out expressions before solving things. So a lot of examples of those. Now that I've given you a quick intro of what a sort of chapter section layout looks like, we can select some questions. If I select this problem, it shows up as problem 1. And then if I select the next question, it'll show up as problem 2, so on and so forth. These can be unselected here or unselected here using the red X. Either way, uses the same functionality. And then last but not least, I think from the preview window, it's nice to show question pools. So if I change the global add new problem indicator down to the radio option next to a problem number and choose a subsequent question next to it, I've created a pool of 2 questions that students will get at random as their problem 2. And this is called a question pool. So if I have a class of 50, 25 of my students will get this one in its unique various form, and then 25 will get this one in its unique various form. Let's go back up and we can select a couple of more problems. And then we could, actually this wouldn't be an intro to Expert TA, this would be like a homework 1. And we won't mess with the dates. I'll do that on my next homework assignment example. So then the next one, if we click here, create an assignment, we'll call this one Intro to Expert TA. It's good to show you some of those default questions in the top chapter called Expert TA System. We have some preliminary, math warm-ups and stuff like that in a separate chapter 0. But the top chapter, Expert TA System, really all you need to do, which would be useful, is have a standalone assignment where students get some practice with points and clicks and some videos that talks about how Expert TA works, so that they have some familiarity before their first graded homework assignment. Essentially, this one could be graded or worth extra credit as well, however you want to treat it in your grade book. There's a couple of really good questions that talk about the system, navigating it, entering in expressions and numbers and the tolerances and things like that, significant figs and things to focus on. There's another one about free body diagrams. Once you get to that section, you can obviously assign this again and make the problem 0 weighted. I'm going to assign it here with this intro one, and then one more just showing some example drag and drop functionality, which would be nice down here in the honor code section. The random SI units problem that I like to just show off here for a similar intro to Expert TA assignment that you might use. In unit 1, units and physical quantities, we also have some fundamental math ones here, area of a circle, percentages, exponents, and like negative, positive exponents, and how to write those in scientific formats, scientific notation. And so again, a lot of nice little warm-up questions that you could assign. I'm going to leave this one just to these 4 questions, and I'll leave it for a weighted score of 1 or 0 out of 100%. And then I'm going to change the weight on this free body diagram one to 0, just to show you that you can weight the individual problems, or you can make one twice as much as the others. And you can also do halves if that's something that you needed to do. So just know that you've got the flexibility to do these sorts of things as you go along. And if I wanted to change this to bring this to a point total of 3, again, the system will give you options to use points or percentages once you hit your grade sheet, as long as you keep the same approach with how you treat the assignment weights up here at the top. The date, start date, when students can actually see questions you've assigned and start working them. The due date, the last date and time students can work problems for full credit. If you support late work, that's the difference between the due and the end date. After the end date, students can't submit any additional work. They can only access their previously submitted work and answers and study from that based on this nicely future dated publish until date, which also aligns with the class availability. By default, the summer class runs until August 31st, even if you don't need to use all that time. Essentially, that's how the system programmatically allows students access into this course through that date. If you have assignments and they need to turn them in, that's going to all be seamless. If you need to run past that date, you have to contact one of us to do that. And then the publish date up here at the top just means when students can see the assignment in their list. Again, that's nicely formatted to the beginning of the default availability for students in a summer course in Expert TA, May 1st. In a fall course, it's August 1st through December 31st. And for a spring course, it's January 1st through May 31st. Just to give you a heads up on those items. Again, description not allowed, grading we'll get into, but overall, I'm happy with this. We'll click save and exit, and you'll see I've got 2 assignments shown on my list. These are organized based on the due date. So if I have 2 assignments due at the same time and I want this one to go on top, such as the intro to Expert TA to go before homework 1, I can change the due date time by 1 minute, 11:58, save and exit, and we'll see that jump above. And then again, you can see how these assignments, this would be 3 points versus 1 point. That may not work, but you can change this at any point that you would like to after the fact, and it won't mess up students' submitted grades or work. So now I've got a weighted 3 points, 10 points, but if I go to my grade sheet, view manage class grades, you'll see that you've got a points view, and once students register, the roster will show them and you'll see their the blank grade columns for those assignments. Right now, there's just no one in the class. We'll talk about that here shortly. But again, we've got 2 assignments. This one's a warm up. Hey, you've got a saved assignment. You can click to take the assignment and put yourself in student mode immediately. to experience the questions as the student would. We've got some language regarding academic integrity policy and terms of service that you can customize, and in terms of our terms of service, turn on and off, instead of it being a repeated occurrence, just a one-time occurrence when the students register in the system. Agree and continue to any of that policy documentation that you have included. And then we'll see an example problem in Expert TA. Deductions for things like incorrect submissions, accessing hints, and feedback are decided by who? Those are grade preferences you control, as you'll see here shortly. And the video explains that as well. So if they follow along with the video, they know that the instructor controls those things. We get a correct answer, click on to the next step. Where's the practice area located? And also, once I complete an assignment, how do I go back and look at the work that I submitted? Pretty straightforward, useful. All that information is in this tutorial video, as is the language about how to use hints, feedback, write out expressions. This would be interesting. So we give students just kind of like a testing the waters question. However you want to mathematically write out x plus 3, where it's mathematically equivalent, something even to the tune of this would work just fine. So you can see correct answer. All we did was times that by 1, and it's still the same answer. So again, students will appreciate the fact that if they write in, 3 plus x or x plus 3 in whatever mathematical form, gives them a nice confidence booster that the system will react appropriately to mathematically equivalent responses, and not, require things to be put in a very specific way. Order of operations are also important, so we'll walk them through a couple of tutorials with that, assuming you assign these questions as I'm showing. The free body diagram also, tells the student, hey, if you really want to just see what we're having you write out, just so you get some practice with adding forces and drawing an FBD, press play and go to 1:35. The other stuff is just about constructing it, good habits, how the sum of the force and the X and Y are shown in real time, so they can see if there's a net acceleration or if the object is in equilibrium with the forces being applied. So pretty useful video there. You might even wait to assign it once you get to Newton's laws and just make it a weight 0 in that problem preview area. And then the last one, drag and drop questions, are nice. These are mainly in conceptual format in our system, as you can imagine. And this one just has students putting the units next to the terms that properly represent those. So kilogram, mass, so on and so forth. Meter would be length, seconds, time, electric current, temperature. So once they put things in a good order and click submit, again, this is all HTML, so it's touchscreen supported. It's pretty nice for the student experience. And then when you're in as an instructor, you can click this instructor TA admin. As you're doing work in your own environment as a student, you can reset the last submission, last problem part, entire problem that you were just working, or the entire assignment from time to time. So this would be good. If I wipe this out, you can see partial completed. I'm going to reset the entire assignment so I can go through those exercises fresh as an instructor masquerading as a student in this assignment again, and you'll see all that just resets nicely. So this is the instructor view. The last thing I wanted to show before talking about registration, cost, and support are grade preferences, and additionally academic integrity preferences. Grade preferences is where you go to decide how students are going to be graded for the problems that you assign in Expert TA. The ones that we give you in physics are primarily all automatically graded, and so you get to set the parameters on submission attempts, points per try. This is down to the part level, so for a multi-step question with 3 parts A, B, and C, they will get 5 submission attempts per part, and in this example, 1 point being counted off per submission attempt that's being made in real time. Students will see that deduction go down. It might make sense to have that at a little bit higher per submission attempt incorrect point deduction up here. And then access to hints, I usually leave those to 0 just for good homework and practice and study reasons. Students accessing hints, they won't be given anything away. They'll be told good things about what the problem involves, and it's general and it's not specific to anything that they're actually typing in or doing. And that's what feedback is. So feedback allows the system to react to students who put in an incorrect answer. Our math engine's really smart. It can diagnose and see how close the answer was to being correct, either based on the number of correct terms the system identified, or even based on a common mathematical mistake, like off by a factor of 10 to the third power, off by a negative value, off by a square, the number's reciprocal that you put in, off by pi, a lot of different values that the system's accounting for, so that right when the students need it most, the feedback will be available. If they choose to use it, if you choose to have a penalty, I would just make that penalty less than another submission attempt, just so students don't steal away another try when they can get some really good feedback that will help them self-correct in real time. Giving students the ability to see the correct answer with all the randomization we have with variables, phrasing, question pools, I don't see that as a bad thing, so that students, if they ultimately put in their 5th attempt, they don't get it right, our feedback is displayed, partial credits shown for how close they were to actually getting the answer correct. So if they had 3 of the 4 correct terms, our algorithm would give them a 75% less any additional deductions. And that way students still get some sort of confidence, self-efficacy that they were close. They see that really nice feedback that tells them how the system graded them. And then they get to use in this example, the correct formula to plug in the numbers to get good practice on the next part, which would be for solving for a numeric value. So that kind of outlines the grade preference features. If you don't want students to see the correct answer for quizzes and things, you just turn that off, or more weighted assignments, or just for your own personal preference for homework as well. Late work can be managed by a flat designation the very first minute after the due date and through the end date. Let's say I don't want to, I want to have everything just kind of be turned in at 50% at that time. If they did 5 problems already out of, the 10, only those additional 5 problems left to go would be at this reduced late percentage. That way, again, it's sort of fair grading, a common theme in our system. You can also have it roll over time. So if you like to have it start at like 95 and get reduced by 5 points per day and roll all the way down to 0, or then, stop at 50, depending on how you have your date set up. You can do a lot of flexible things like that with the late work. And then free body diagram, we saw that example. You can have proportionality included with the grading because they have that sum of the forces in the X and Y telling them where the bias is located. Usually it's recommended just to leave the proportionality on. But again, if you just want conceptually things written in the right direction and, the size of those force vectors not being, not being accounted for in the grading, you can turn this off as well. That's just the grade preferences, and feel free to follow up and ask us any questions you might have on those features. The second area, academic integrity preferences, is treated the same way. So that custom language pop-up that we saw before the assignment was opened is just things that you can reinforce to students that you want them to know regarding academic integrity, class policies around that, university policies, and or just your own recognition of what is and isn't allowed is oftentimes barrier to a student, just not really knowing what is and isn't allowed and looking up answers online and not getting the practice they know that they need in order to be successful. So you can write out any custom language that you want and post that here. There'll be some default language in there that you could use if you don't want to worry too much about it, but you still want to use that intermediate language before students open up the assignment. Our terms of service, they have to agree to this when they sign up. Again, not so much a scare tactic, but enough to, our content is copywritten. Make sure that you know that and don't post it anywhere externally. And then these in-assignment deterrents just personalize the assignments further to add a student's name and email to their assignment. So if they take screen captures, their information they're posting on the internet isn't anonymous in that case. So, so good practices tackling academic integrity. And then lastly, we'll look at student registration and costs. So for this new class I created, there's automatically a student registration link that we can get to from the class menu, the student TA registration page. By default, we only expose the student registration links That way you don't confuse it with the additional TA link that allows students to get in for free. Sorry, that allows your TAs or co-instructors for the course to get in for free and to have those permissions they need to help you with managing assignments and looking at grades and that sort of thing. If we open it up, you can see the special link only for your TAs and or co-instructors. This is the link that you would give them. All your other students, you would just, all your students who are going to join and be graded on your course, this is the link that you would hand out in your syllabus, and this will change each semester even if it's the same course. This is a unique way just to make sure students only in that given course are registering and get access to the assignments. There's additional registration options here. You can limit the enrollment. That essentially says, hey, if you know the drop date is a specific date at your university for the summer term or winter or fall or spring, you can just post that in here as a date, end date, and make the start date today or in the past, whenever you're ready for students to actually start joining. This isn't required, but it's something that you could do. You could also limit students to only using their student.university.edu account. So you could do something like that, add student.university.edu, whatever your school, whatever that handle is after the @ that's how you would add a suffix validation to your registration, meaning students couldn't use Gmail, Yahoo, and that sort of thing. Or you can just upload a CSV with a roster of your emails that are allowed to join. The top of that email column would just be a capital E, lowercase MAIL, no quotations needed, and then upload that file. And only those emails that you add and save, and then roster validate and save once those are loaded in, would be allowed to actually join. So just something to think about if you want to tighten up the registration. If you have a class of 500, that might be useful. A class of 25, maybe not necessary. You'd be able to go in here and spot check your roster and see when students join, their name, they use the right email. Email and username are synonymous in our system. The date that they joined, whether or not they paid or they're using a free trial designated with a $0 registration paid amount. And so that's essentially it for the registration. You've got student registration link, you've got a TA and or co-instructor registration link as well. And then last but not least, we'll look at support. So from within the system, there's a help area for support, both instructor, student support, and a contact us page. If I went back to the main website, just click theexpertta.com from here, you'll see that we actually have a really nice instructor support area. This is essentially what you'd be linked to with more about LMS integration. And this is what I wanted to show, the full instructor user manual with like annotations and screenshots and a lot of really great information that you can access. If you need help, this would essentially point you in a really good direction. And then same for the students, they've got access to student support, including a lot of example videos and how-tos and FAQs, a support forum that gets loaded into our ticketing system that they can access at any time, that our support team can access at any time and get them a quick response. Then you've got our contact us page as well, where from the contact page, we've got a chat window that's available during business hours, and then a toll-free number that's available 24/7. But essentially what I might suggest is just using the form or the email, and that goes to a large group of us here in-house that will take care of things quickly and answer any questions and technical support inquiries that students might have for us. And that's it. We're looking forward to working with you and your students. If you have questions, you'll have an account manager such as myself, Robbie White, Jack, Dustin, Spencer. We've got a large group of folks here that give instructors hands-on one-on-one support and attention just to make sure you're comfortable and confident using the system the first time, the second time, the third semester. We're always here on standby waiting to help out. And then additionally, students have the same 24/7 attention and support when needed. And again, we're really looking forward to working with you, and let us know if you have any questions. Hopefully this video was useful today, and we will talk to you soon.